Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of CVtv Workshops. My name is Carlos and I'm here with my co-host David Dakin, owner of CoralView. How are you, Dave?
Doing great, man. Doing great today. How
Doing
are you?
good? Been a
Good,
good
good.
day. It's starting to warm up down there, or a little
It's,
too warm.
yeah, it's getting warm, man. It's that time of year. We just kind of transition right into summer. There's not too much spring here.
Where you got like 2 days of spring and then go right into
You're right to
blatant
boom.
100%, 90% humidity.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I wish I could say that here. We probably have 8 months of winter, followed by 1 month of spring and fall, and like 2 weeks of summer. That's what we
Shit,
get here. It's crazy.
that is crazy.
But speaking of summer, it's
Yeah.
like this show is going to be kind of an unusual show. We're not covering a particular product, but we're covering
Mhm.
something that a lot of people have to deal with, hopefully once a year.
Yeah,
And if you have to deal with it a couple times a year, you're a very lucky guy.
exactly. We talking about going on vacation.
Oh my God. Summertime and vacation. Ooh,
Yeah,
that's gonna be fun.
I know.
My place to go is Mexico. My wife and I love Mexico, so that's where we
Me
usually go.
too.
What about you, Dave? You
Uh,
like to go off-roading, right? You like to go to Colorado and stuff
I
like
like
that?
I like trying to go somewhere that's a little cooler to give a little break. So I try and head to the mountains. So that's what
Or
I like to do.
I find going on vacation in the middle of the winter for skiing,
Hmm.
that's super relaxing for me.
Yeah.
I know some people think I'm crazy, but I my perfect vacation would be a week skiing in Colorado or Utah,
Yeah.
and then from there fly down to Mexico and spend another week and a half, and then come back home.
There you go. I'm a
That
big ski buff too, so I
uh,
love it.
yeah, good. So everybody, thank you for watching. We're always streaming here live on Facebook and on YouTube. I like to say hello to everybody. It's good to see the usual suspects around here. Connor is here, Jeff is here. So is Michael. It's so good to see you, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. So let's kind of dive in, Dave. We this show is about going on vacation and
Mhm.
what we need to do in order to prepare for
Right.
going on vacation. I think most people think that going on vacation for an aquarium might be like, for newbies. It's not like, last minute packing where you do last minute cleaning, last minute things, or you just leave everything and then go. It takes
It's
a fair amount
preparation.
of planning
Yeah.
to go on vacation. But at the same time, you need to get away. I know it's a hobby, but it's you have to work, and it's always good to go and recharge and take some time off for yourself, and then come back and get things. Take a deep breath. So
Yeah.
it's always good to have that.
I tell
So
you, Carlos, I don't know about anybody else, but with my luck, if something's going to happen, it's going to be while I'm on vacation. So
it's
it's
Murphy's law.
always that way. Yep.
It's Murphy's law. You know what? We have tanks at the office, and I'm telling you, we're here every day, and
Yep.
nothing happens. You go away for the weekend, and something happens on a
Boom.
Sunday night.
That's it.
I
It's
mean,
always the way.
it is always the way it is.
So
So
we thought we'd share some of our knowledge, and try and make this kind of like a fun show, but also educational and taking some time to prepare and what we do and learned over the years. So
absolutely. And instead of creating a list, we decided that we're going to do something a little bit different. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into three groups,
okay.
or actually four groups. Is before your departure, but
Mhm.
a week or more.
Yep.
Okay, so like 2 weeks before departure, then you have a set list.
Mhm.
Then a week to a few days to the day before departure, that's a different set list. Then while you're away, there's a set list. And then when you return, there's another set list of things that you have to do, or tasks that you have to do. And I think that's the best thing to do, because some of the stuff that we're going to cover, you shouldn't be doing it the day before, because
Mhm.
you really don't have, you have to have time to make sure that what the changes that you've made don't cause any troubles,
Right.
any problems. So let's break into the first part. The first part is before leaving for vacation, but it has to be more than a week in advance.
Okay.
So this is something that you do more ahead of time, 7 days or more. And the first one on the list we have is perform a water change. That's a simple one.
Yeah.
You know, I think a water change is always good. I mean, you don't have to go on vacation to have a water change. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
I know some people don't like to do water changes, and that's okay too. You know, I believe that whatever works for you and whatever you do that you have done and you're successful, just keep at it. So if you don't make any water changes, don't go and do a water change, because that's a change of the routine and that's going to cause something that might go wrong. Now, if you do water changes and you stop doing the water changes, don't do that either. So just keep doing what you're doing, status quo.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm a big water change guy myself. So
I know you make water changes all the time.
I need to make water, and that takes time,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how much water you need to make. And I like to give it a couple of days after to just observe and see if I need to make any changes.
Exactly. I mean, you never know if the batch, something happened to the batch of salt, and maybe your alkaline, and I'm not saying chemically, you know, something is going to kill your corals or anything like that, but maybe the batch, instead of the alkalinity being 8, is 8.5 or is 9, and then you make the water change, and all of a sudden a day later you start seeing your corals kind of like, they're not happy.
Yeah.
You know, those are the things that you have to, and that's the reason why you don't want to make a water change the day before you leave. You want to be able to see the corals and make any adjustments if you want to. So I'm, on the other hand, I hardly do any water changes, you know, but that works for me, you know. So okay, next one that you do 7 days or more in advance is clean pumps, and this is a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we heard people make? How many times have I gotten support, you know, ticket that says, "Hey, my pump is not working. I took it apart to clean it, and it's not working anymore, and I have to leave on vacation tomorrow."
Yeah.
You know, and I sympathize, but part of me says, is like, dude, why are you? It was running fine, and why would you do that the day before you go on vacation?
Right.
So, what do you think, Dave? You know, what's the perfect way of cleaning a pump if you were to do that?
Well, probably not disassembling it. Maybe use some type of citric acid and just something mild to put the pump in, run it at a low speed, and let it clean itself that way.
Exactly.
Once you start taking pumps apart, you run the risk of bearing or something not lining up properly.
Exactly.
And then you find yourself going to be stressed out when you're about to leave a day before and the pump's not working right.
Exactly. And I think you nailed it in importance. When we mean cleaning the pump, exactly what you said. Don't take it apart. Because if you take it apart, things will misalign, or you put it back together, or you run the chance of breaking it, or something, it slips. I mean, accidents happen. So just pull it out, put it in a bucket, put some mild citric or sulfamic acid in there. We don't recommend vinegar because it doesn't work. It's too harsh.
Yeah.
So, and then just let it run at low speed, maybe overnight. And then put it back in place. And that's all you do. When you come back from vacation, then you can take it apart and do the regular maintenance. That's what we do. Okay, so good. The next step, clean float switches and water sensors. This is the big one.
Yeah.
And why would I do that, Dave? I mean, tell me, what's the reason?
I mean, you run an ATO or RO that's dependent on these sensors. You want to make sure they can see properly and they're mechanically closing properly via a flow switch.
Exactly. So make sure that, you know, if you have a controller, like a Hydros controller or something like that, that you make sure that, you know, the controller shows that when the sensor is wet, it's showing wet. When the sensor is dry, it's showing dry. Take a toothbrush, grab the sensor with a toothbrush and just brush it off. Get that residue, to get that growth, get that gunk, as we call it.
Sometimes it's hard to see. There's a film line right at the surface, and if you're running an ATO sensor, it might be difficult to see exactly where that line is, but it does accumulate a film over time. So you want it to be able to see.
And every time you do a sensor, you know, don't just take it out, clean it, and put it back. Take it out, clean it, and then inspect it. Make sure that there's no water inside. You know, you're doing this a week to 2 weeks prior, which means that you have time. If there's a crack, you can grab a new sensor, or you can order a new sensor online and get it in time. I mean, these are the things that you want to do days in advance, so you don't find yourself trying to FedEx overnight a sensor, you know, because you're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Ensure all electrical cords are properly labeled in case you need to instruct the tank sitter to disconnect something. And I
Yep.
think this is important, that this is something important that we take for granted, that we as hobbyists don't do. But if you're going to have somebody else take care of your tank, even if you know, Dave, even if I go to your place and I take care of your tank for a
Yeah.
week, you still need to label it, because I
Absolutely.
don't know how you have your tank set.
Yeah.
So having a label, Dave's come back and says, Carlos, there's something going on. Can you disconnect the the Kaltwasser reactor? And then we spent the next 2 hours trying to figure out which one is the Kaltwasser reactor.
Exactly.
So having a label, I think, is a great thing.
I like these little Dymo label makers.
Yes.
You can get they're relatively inexpensive and they're useful for a lot of applications, but just making a simple label and putting that at the end of the cord where it plugs in. Just
and you don't have to be
description.
And you don't have to be fancy. I mean, those Dymo labels are great. You find them on Amazon, you find them at your local office supply.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Painter's tape and a Sharpie.
Yeah. True.
I mean, it's at this point, it doesn't have to. You can, again, when you come back, you can make it pretty. Yeah. But if you're in a pinch, this is something that you do. And again, you're doing this 10 days in advance. So you could order that printer. Mm-hmm. I think it's a great thing. All right. Ensure temperature probes are secured and will not move or come out of the water. That is, oh my God.
Hey, I've been there, Carlos. Remember me calling, something's wrong with my hydros. The temperature's way off. And we were looking all over, and come to find out the temperature probe was out of the tank, out of the sump.
Exactly. And you know what? And I remember Connor, this is before Connor, one of our marketing people, one of the time I remember telling me about it. It's like, he just somehow, when they cleaned the tank, he cleaned the tank, the temperature sensor came right out of the water, but not enough for him to see anything. And then, and left. And then, luckily it was a controller and everything was fine. But, those are the things that you want to make sure. Again, if you're asking somebody that is not familiar with your system to reach into the sump and pull something out, make sure they're secured.
I recommend we sell a little a magnetic probe holder.
Yes.
So, and it's got a little set screw, so you can just hang the probe through the probe holder on there, and then set the thumb screw so you can't physically pull it back out of that hole. So
absolutely,
that would work really well.
And also Hydros has this very handy magnetic temperature sensors that actually attach to the side of your sump. And obviously, you yank it out, it's going to come out, but so is the probe. But at least, if you touch it, it's not going to move, and the cable's not going to, especially with the temperature sensor, sometimes they're so light that the cable, it's the weight of the cable, almost the rigidity. The rigidity of the cable actually turns that, and it could make it go out of the water. So yes, I think it's so make sure that they're secure.
I love those magnetic probe holders. So they really come in handy. You could put it anywhere you want, and it's in place.
Exactly. I think so. And you also have little tube holders for dosing pumps, which technically you can also do the same thing.
Yeah. So
both of them work. All right. Ensure, this is a big one. Ensure that backup batteries are properly charged and in working condition. A better option, which is not available to everybody, I understand that, is a generator. Yeah. An automatic generator. But I think a backup battery is something underrated. And I think you and I will agree, when you're installing a backup battery, don't install the backup battery to cover your return pump and every single flow pump in the tank. They're not meant to do that. A backup battery is as an emergency to just keep the water flowing in your tank so that oxygen level doesn't drop, which means that if you have 4 pumps in your tank, don't have the backup battery run all 4 pumps, just one. Yeah, that's it. You only need one, and you don't need to be whipping the corals and everything back and forth. You literally just have to have that water move, so you see a little bit of a sway, maybe some movement, but the corals are going to be fine. Yep. The fish are the ones where the battery has to do. If you can have that pump point upwards a little bit so that it hits the water surface a little bit, that would be big help.
I recommend going through a simulation of losing power and seeing where that, make sure that battery's still good and it's giving you a good charge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I have that at the bottom of the list, but I think it's a great idea. I'm going to make a mark right here, right now. So yeah, we have perform a power loss test to ensure that your tank equipment, sump capacity, and backup battery are working correctly. And I think this is something that people should do constantly. And even when you set up your tank, especially the sump capacity, that's a one that people tend to forget, is set everything up and then kill the power completely. And then the water coming from your tank, the overflow, is going to settle down in the sump. Make sure that your sump can handle that excess and it doesn't overflow and end up with a big mess.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Yes. So make sure you test it. And you know what? The Hydros has this low power mode that you can create that mode and all that. And actually it makes it really easy to program a single pump, especially if you have a wave engine or a wave engine LE.
Yep.
So that's a good one. All right. So let's move on in here. Monitor tank temperature to ensure that heaters are working properly. I think this is more for the winter than the summertime, but just keep an eye, look at your graph, look at your temperature graph. Are there any big spikes that are normal, or is everything pretty much, there's a pattern to it?
Yeah.
So check that out and make sure that things are working properly, especially those heaters.
Oh yeah.
We highly recommend using 2 heaters instead of 1. Because if you need an 800 watt heater, I think you should get 2 400 watt heaters.
Right.
Oh, and I mean, care to explain why, Dave? Especially for the
redundancy. Yeah, you want to have some fail safe, something that one heater goes, you still got something that can maintain the temperature.
That is correct. So anyway, we're covering here vacation checklist. We are, this is Carlos and Dave, owner of CoralView. This is CVtv Workshops, and we stream live on Facebook and on YouTube pretty much every other week.
Yep.
So, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, hit the little bell, and, subscribe, and you'll be notified right away when we have a show, which is, we do the shows where we just kind of chat, have a candid conversation. If we could sit at a bar with a couple of beers and be recorded, we probably would do that, because I think it's more, it's just a conversation we're having.
It's laid back, huh?
Yeah, it's laid back. Exactly. Yeah. If you have any questions about the products, if you have any questions about the Hydros, we talked about controllers, please head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com. There's a community of users there that they're always happy to help. And, if you have any other questions about vacation checklists for every tank, because every tank is different. We're going through a general checklist, but you have to modify that to your tank. But if you have something that is specific for you and you have a question for it, you can always head over to our Facebook group, CoralView Cares. And that's a great group, and there are people that are willing to help. So you can ask any questions there, regardless of where you purchase the product. You purchased it on CoralView, you purchased it on another online reseller. It doesn't matter. Ask away. We're always willing to help. We're trying to make social media help instead of, a tool of benefit instead of, what it is nowadays. Okay. And if you have any questions about a specific product, let's say we're talking about battery, and you have questions about, how to connect the ice cap battery to a pump, or question about a setting, you can always reach us directly. Just head over to support.coralview.com and submit a ticket, and one of the reps there is going to be able to help you. So we're always looking forward to that. So let's continue with the list, Dave. Okay, so we have right here. This is a big one, and it ties to the heaters. Ensure your system has two heater thermostats. Never connect an unmonitored heater rod to a controller without having a second thermostat. Care to explain that?
That goes back to the redundancy, and it should a thermostat fail in position, whether it be off or on, you want to have that second backup to control or shut that heater off.
Yes, and I think going back to the example that Connor pulling out that thermostat, that heater sensor out of the water, or the heater sensor out of the water. You pull that heater sensor out of the water, and the ambient temperature is more likely going to be lower than the water temperature. Therefore, the controller doesn't know that the sensor is out of the water. All the controller knows is that the temperature is 72 degrees or 78 degrees, whatever you keep it at, 72. Let's say 72. So it's going to turn that heater on.
Yep.
Now, if that heater is just a rod, you know, and you know, producer April is going to put a picture of that. It's a heating rod with nothing. It's one of those heating rods with an electrical cable, and it plugs in. You plug it to the outlet, the heater rod turns on. You unplug it, it turns off. If you have one of those and the controller thinks that the temperature is 75, it's going to turn that heater on, even though the water temperature is not 75.
Right.
The ambient temperature is 75. Now, if you have that heating rod connected to something like an Inkbird controller, or you had one of those glass heaters that have their own little thermostat in there, you could have that Inkbird or that thermostat set, okay, you know what, if the temperature gets to 80, I don't care what the controller says, shut the heater off. At that point, the controller is going to turn on the outlet because the controller thinks it's 75, but the heater thermostat says, no, wait a minute, it's not 75, it's 80. I'm shutting off the heater. So then that accident of burning up, or what we call it, cooking up your aquarium, would never happen.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why you always have two thermostats, you know, on.
And Carlos, I want to say, I don't care what kind of controller you're using. This isn't just hydros. We can't stress this enough. Whatever controller you're using, this is, you know, a good practice.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I want to even go a little bit further. It's like, no matter, you know, every controller in the market, we have different ideas of how to do things.
Yeah.
But this is the one thing that I can guarantee you that if you ask any of the controller people out there, different companies, we will all agree on this. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to do what we think is best for the hobbyist.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, everybody will agree that you should always have a second thermostat in there. All right, good. Let's keep going in here. Speaking of temperature, ensure cooling fans are working properly, or your chiller is working properly. If you leave on vacation, if you're a summer person, you know, then more likely your heaters are not going to be an issue. It's actually going to be your fans. And fans are a huge thing. I go through fans once, like every 9 months, just because of the humidity and the salt that evaporates and gets into the fans, and it causes them to seize.
Right. And fans are huge, Carlos, just because moving that air across water really provides an
evaporation
of cooling. Yep, that evaporation.
Exactly.
So it plays a big part into keeping that temperature, maintaining that temperature in your aquarium.
Exactly. So just, you know what, just go into your controller and manually override the fans for a few seconds. Make sure that they're running smoothly, that there's no squeaky or vibrating, rattling. And if everything is okay, then shut them off and then you're good to go. That's it. I mean, it's a simple test. You know, if they're bad, you can always order a new one. Again, we're all doing this. This is a list of to-dos more than 7 days in advance. Okay, let's move on in here. Ensure the leak detectors are in good working condition. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's Murphy's Law. You know it's going to happen.
I think if you're using a single spot leak detector, or if you're using a rope leak detector that has a better, you know, coverage, it doesn't matter. Just make sure that they're working correctly. You know, even test them. Grab some water and spill it on them, and make sure that the controllers are beeping and that you're getting the notifications.
Right.
I mean, I don't think we need to go into this one too much. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, and it's pretty simple to do. Grab a little tank water and sprinkle it on there, and you'll know if it's going to be working.
Exactly. All right, let's see what we have here. This is a good one. You don't have to. This is optional. Purchase inexpensive web cameras and place them outside and inside the sump cabinet.
Yeah.
I think that's genius, especially nowadays. You can find cheap cameras for $20-$30.
I know a lot of people ask us, "Oh, you're going to come out with a hydros camera?" I'm like, "Why? Go get you a camera. It's great. It's so easy, inexpensive."
not only that, it's like we have the companies that do the cameras, they take care of the security and everything. That's not something that we want to do either. So
Right.
we can't, the R&D of coming up with the camera and the software development is like, it would never allow us to create, to offer a camera for $20. We just
Right.
can't.
Yeah. And the
But
quality of the cameras now are so great. You know, you can it's put it
yeah,
on your desk next to your tank, and you're getting great images.
I have it, you know, and I have it right next to my tank to see the tank. I also have one inside the cabinet, you know, hanging from the underside of the tank, going into the sump, you know, to make sure. And I have it looking at my calcium reactor and looking at my water level on my return chamber. So I
Yeah.
can see if the calcium reactor is clogged up because the effluent is not coming out. And I can see on the water level that, you know, if it's too low or something, like, you know, the ATO got stuck or something like that. So, you know, inexpensive
Great.
$20 camera, it makes a huge, make sure that you get one of those cameras that has the night vision, because if you close the cabinet, then you're not going to be able to see anything, you know?
I also think cameras, it just it makes you feel good being able to check in on your babies, you know.
Exactly. Absolutely. And, you know, we do it for our pets. We
Yeah.
do it for our house, you know, and
Right.
honestly, it's a hobby, but we sunk so much money
I
into
know.
our aquariums that a camera should not be a problem.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next one. If you have a friend that is in the hobby,
Mm.
give them a heads up that you are leaving in case of emergency. You can have your tank sitter take care of the daily feedings, but have the fellow hobbyist that is on standby should something happen.
Right.
You
Somebody
know,
that knows what's going on, knows
it-
aquariums.
exactly. You know what? I'm lucky enough that I have Connor that lives here 10 minutes away. And I understand Connor's got a life and everything.
Yeah.
So I can't ask him to drive every day to come in here and feed my tank. But when I go on vacation, I talk to him and says, "Hey Connor, I'm gonna be on vacation. You know, if something happens, can you please
Yeah.
be on standby?" And he says yes. But I also have a neighbor down two doors down that he's very kind. He doesn't know anything about tanks, but he comes over and feeds my tank every day. And you'd be surprised. Last time I went on vacation, I had to have Connor come over and fix something on my calcium reactor, you know, that my neighbor couldn't do. So you know, it's great. It's great to have that peace of mind. And you
Yeah.
probably had the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So good. All right. Let's see. Contact your tank sitter, since we're talking about tank sitters, and either have them come over so you can show them what to do in person.
Yep.
Or if it's not possible, then use your phone to record the instructions.
Right.
I mean, that's a big one. I've had, you know, sometimes life gets in the way and we're busy, and, you know, my neighbor says, "I can't come over right now." And it's like, "Oh, crap, I'm leaving on vacation tomorrow. Let me record something and send it to you." But it would be better if they can come over and you can just walk them through it. You know, here's what I'm going to leave the cup for the food. Here's the food, you know, and everything like that. I think that's a good thing. What do you think?
Absolutely. Just having that peace of mind and them being able to be in front of you to take that instruction is a lot better than, you know, trying to say it by phone or text.
Yeah. Plus, if you're in person, that neighbor can ask questions.
Right.
You know, that neighbor can ask questions, you know, because I mean, the neighbor might look at the food and it's like, "Oh, this is not enough. I don't think this is enough," and then feed some more.
Yeah.
You know, if you're doing it in person, you can actually say, "You know what? I know it doesn't look like much, but trust me, this is enough for them. You know, this is enough. Their stomach is the size of their eye. You know, so trust me, it's plenty of food."
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Email your tank sitter written instructions on what to do and who to contact if something happens. Do not forget to remind your tank sitter that algae growth on the glass is okay, and not try to clean it with the magnet.
Yep.
And the reason why is because while they may very well mean well to clean the glass, they could inadvertently scratch the glass, or, you know, move it so fast the magnet comes off, and then they go and reach into the tank, and then that's a recipe for disasters.
Right.
And I have had that happen.
Wow.
Yes. So that's why I put that on the list, because I'm like, you think about it. It's like, for us, a little bit of algae on the glass means it's unsightly, but it really is not going to do anything. But for somebody, if 5 days into the trip and they can't see any inside the tank, they might think that something is bad, wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, so big one in there. If you have a magnet, you either explicitly tell them not to use it, or just remove the magnet before you leave, so then they can't use it, because they are going to try to mean well. And you know, and what do? They scratch up the glass. It's like you can't go back and complain.
There's no buffering the glass out.
Nope, exactly.
So
all right, so you know, those are the lists that we have for the before leaving on vacation, a few like a week or two in advance. I mean, it seems like a long list, but I think preparation is key for everything. And you know, I can see our producer April, just big smile on there. Preparation, you have to prepare, you know, for everything you do, which is very counterintuitive for us men.
Yeah.
All
we
right.
last minute.
Yeah, we are always last minute. God, I always do that. So you're watching CVtv Workshops. We're streaming live on YouTube and on Facebook, and we're talking about vacation task lists, what to do when you're leaving, before you're leaving on vacation. So if you like the show, if you like what you're hearing and watching, please, you know, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the little, you know, the thumbs up, and you'll be notified next time we have a show. I want to say thank you for everybody for watching. You know, I always love seeing the regulars in here. You know, we're done with the first segment. We're going to move on to the next segment. But before we do that, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor. Hey everybody, welcome back to CVtv Workshops. My name is Carlos, and I'm here with my co-host David Dakin, owner of CoralView. Dave, so far we've gone through a pretty extensive list.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a lot. You know, it seems like a lot, I guess, but it's just trying to be prepared. We want to go on vacation and be able to relax. That's you know, our ultimate goal is to de-stress. So taking this preparation hopefully gives you some peace of mind to be able to fully relax and knowing the tank is well cared for.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like there's nothing worse than going on vacation, and as you're boarding the plane, you ask your wife, "Hey, hon, did you close the window?" Yeah. Wasn't that commercial about closing the windows and all the pigeons came into the house? I remember. I don't know.
I know.
And the guy's like, "Yeah, I did." And it's like, and then next thing you know, it's like the house got pigeons everywhere. Yeah. Anyway, so now we're going to go to the next segment, which is what to do a few days to the day before you leave on vacation. Okay. Yep. So let's go in there. It says portion out your food in Ziploc bags and always ensure to make extra in case of emergency.
Yep.
I think this is a big one because
the big one, because you leave it to somebody else, they could overfeed and you got problems.
you got problems. You got algae problems, and you know it may not kill your corals, it may not damage your fish, but you're going to be paying for that for the next few months.
Oh yeah.
You know, so yes, so always. Plus, you know, there's nothing better than they're doing you a favor.
Right.
You have to make it as simple as you possibly can, because you don't want to hear, first of all, you don't want to hear I get a call that says your fish are dead, because obviously it's not good for you, but it is also, can you imagine how mortified that tank sitter would be to make that phone call? you know. So, you know, you want to minimize that, you know, everywhere. You know, I do it when I go out of town, even with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I always separate the food. I said, okay, Han, yeah, you know, I'm going to be gone for 7 days. So here is food for 10 days,
Yeah.
you know, and she's like, okay. And that's it. It just, trust me, when it comes to the significant other,
Mm-hmm.
transparency and making it as simple as possible is good for me. It's good for me. It's good for me. All right. If you're leaving during the summer or winter, check the extended forecast and make adjustments to room temperature control. So don't leave on vacation in the middle of the summer and leave your windows open. Because if your temperature, you know, it could be 70 degrees and everything is perfect, but then you have one day that is going to be 90 and 95. And if you leave your windows open inside the house, it's going to get hot.
Right.
And there is no fan in the world that will cool down a tank that way. So look at the forecast. We always do this with my wife. It could be 70 degrees outside, but if we're leaving for 7-10 days, we close all the windows and I put the AC, you know, probably not recommended, but you know, at the same time, I think the AC unit can take a little beating for a few days,
Right.
unlike the tank. What do you think?
You know, that's a good one for, you know, people in your climate, Carlos. You know, one that I really don't think about much because we so reliant on HVAC, our air conditioners. So we don't hardly have opportunities for windows or.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, you guys are like, you know, it's like I'm going down. I go down to New Orleans in the middle of the summer, and it's like I'm telling you, people, it's like it could be 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm stepping out of the hotel, and as soon as those door opens, my glasses go poof, fogged up, like if it was in the middle of winter, and it's just that humidity that just hits you like a brick.
Yeah,
you know, it's great, but it could also be very uncomfortable.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't get me wrong, the food makes up for it. All right, let's go into it. Make extra salt water just in case.
That's a good one.
That's a big one. I mean, I think in case of emergency, even if, again, your tank sitter probably shouldn't be doing the water changes, but if you have something bad happens and I have to call Connor, it's like, you know, I can't expect Connor to make water change, you know, to make water, turn the heater on, test everything. So no, I will leave salt water made just in case. And you know what? That's how, if the salt water doesn't get used, it'll get used when I come back.
Right.
You know, as long as you don't use any type of probiotic salt, because probiotic salt should be used within a day, even few hours. But regular salt, it can definitely last. You know, but you're more of a water changer, so you tell me, is that
I got it on standby, so it's ready to go.
All right, let's see here. On the night before leaving, empty out your skimmer cup, collection cup, or waste collector.
Yeah. Absolutely. Have that all clean. It's performing well.
Yes.
With a nice clean cup and neck on the skimmer. Maybe
Exactly.
even your filter socks, check those.
Exactly. But again, you don't want to take it out and clean it, do a deep cleaning the day before. No, you've done this before, you know, a week or 2 weeks in advance. At this point, all you're doing is taking the cup, dumping and putting it back on, taking the waste collector, dumping and putting it back on. You don't have to worry about the sensor. You don't have to worry about the float switch. It's already done. Yes. Yeah. Good. All right. Ensure that your controller configuration is working properly and alarms are correct. Do not overuse audible alarms. Remember that you are not there to turn the alarms off, and the sound could be bothersome to your neighbors. So make sure that your leak alarm is working correctly. Make sure that your skimmer cup or waste collector alarm are working correctly. Your water in sump high, the sump is too high sensor is corrected. If your temperature too high or too low, the alarm is triggering. Your ATO pump ran too long alarm. Your ATO pump has not run more in your ATO pump hasn't run in 24 hours, alarm is on, you know, those are alarms that you have to do. So you have to go through the list and make sure that those things are triggering, you know.
Yeah.
And you probably, I could probably move this, all the alarms, to a week before.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
now that I'm actually looking and actually we're talking about it, that probably should have been on the prior to week, you know, a week or prior, not the week, not the night before.
Yeah.
So a little edit in
So,
there for us.
one thing I was thinking about with notifications is, what if you're traveling to an area where you may not have service? Could you use the Hydros feature where we give out service accounts? So maybe you
Absolutely.
want to set that up with your tank sitter.
Correctly. So you can do, I mean, I probably would, you know, you could do it with a tank sitter, or I would probably do it with somebody like my standby expert
Yeah.
or hobbyist like Connor. Like
Mhm.
I would probably have the leak detector set to send him a notification.
Right.
You know, if my skimmer cup is full or my waste collector is full and the skimmer turns out for a few days, I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
You know, the ATO pump, maybe that's something that I would do, is if the ATO pump ran too long, I would send that to Connor. If the ATO hasn't ran in 24 hours, then I would probably, before I send it to Connor, I would probably revert that. I would send it to myself
Mhm.
or Connor, and then give Connor access to the camera.
Right.
So he can see in you know, from outside or inside the sump, if the water level is set. It could be a false positive.
Mhm.
You know, something like that. But yeah, and a big one, especially on the Hydros control, I think is take advantage of the power monitoring features on your controller to ensure that the return pump and the heaters are working correctly.
Yeah.
So if the return pump is supposed to draw 40 watts and all of a sudden it's drawing 5, then send me an alarm, because
Right.
most likely, you know, most likely either the return pump is not working, or something got in the sump and then got pulled into a return pump and it's jamming the impeller,
Right.
which happened to me once while I was down in New Orleans.
Really?
Oh yeah, actually I had a fish in the sump that ended up in the sump because it was eating corals, and I was going to take it to the back to the local fish store, and something happened and I just couldn't get to the local fish store, so it kind of had to be there for a week.
Right.
And something happened, the fish somehow made it through the baffle into the return pump chamber, and it got sucked into the return pump.
Wow.
Fish didn't make it, but oh my God, I remember that vividly, because I had to call my wife and actually ask her to stick her hand in the tank and pull that fish.
Oh, that couldn't have been a good scene, huh?
Oh, I'm still paying for it, man. Years later.
I'm still paying.
Yeah. So it's like my wife was like, I'm not sticking my hand there and getting my hands wet. And I'm like, all right, hon. I said, grab a garbage bag, put your hand in the garbage bag, and then put the garbage bag and grab the fish that way, so her hands wouldn't touch the fish or something like that. You know, it's still a texture thing, but
Right.
she did ahead. And you know, I love my wife. She was a trooper. She did it, and as soon as she did it, the pump started right back up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but things like that happen.
Yeah, it happens.
So
it happens.
the thing about it is the controller might tell you that the outlet is on, but if you don't have any power monitoring,
Right. You
know,
never know.
the quality of the on, you don't get to see that. So yes, it's on and it's running 40 watts, or it's on but it's running 5 watts. There's
Right.
something wrong. You
Yeah.
know,
No,
same thing with the heaters. You know, so you know, in the last but not least, I think this is a big one. Above all, resist the urge to change things or clean one last pump. Don't do it, especially the night before.
Yeah.
It's working, that's fine. If one of the 4 flow pumps is not running, then go to your controller and turn it off or unplug it. Don't try to fix it and then put it back in there and then hope that it works.
Right.
You know, that's the big thing. It's like, and that goes back to, if you're going on vacation, don't mess with the tank the day before. Don't mess with the tank 2 days, 3 days before. Leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, now we're making our way through this checklist. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it looks like it's a long list, but it's not. Most of the stuff that we're covering is things that you do anyway on a regular basis, or
Yeah.
that you should be doing. We're just putting a little emphasis. And most of us, you know what? Most of the stuff right here, I do it on once a month anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the stuff here. So, all right, good. So, yeah, you're watching CVtv workshops. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, and we're talking about vacation checklists, what to do when you go on vacation. If you like what you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, and you'll be notified right away when we have a show. If you have any questions about a product or a specific setting, head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com. If you have a hydros controller, there's a community of folks there that are amazing, and they're always willing to help. So go in there and ask questions, and don't be afraid. The only stupid question is this question that is not asked.
Yeah.
So please ask the question. If you have a question about your specific system and it's not Hydros, you're using a different controller, or you're using just a simple ATO, you can always head on over to our Facebook group, CoralView Cares. It's a community of folks also that are willing to help. We're working hard to turn Facebook into a tool that benefits us instead of what it is right now. So please, doesn't matter if you purchase the product from CoralView or you purchase it from another retailer. All we want to do is make sure that you are informed and that we can help you. So please ask questions in there. And if you have a question about a specific product from CoralView, maybe you're having an issue. Maybe, heck, you were cleaning that pump and you noticed that there's something wrong with the pump. So please head on over to support.coralview.com and submit a ticket, and one of our reps is going to get back to you pretty quickly, usually within a few business hours. So again, so continuing to our list, now we're going to the section during vacation. What do you do? There's a checklist for during vacation. Trust me, there is one. It's not long, but and most of it is actually pretty much common sense, right?
Yeah, and it's what you've already hopefully prepared for.
Exactly.
If you got those cameras, take a look at it, see how things are looking.
Exactly. So the first point is, like you said, is monitor your tank using the webcams. I mean, you spent the money, you set it up, use it, utilize it. Okay. Also, if you have a controller like the Hydros controller, monitor the app.
Yeah.
If in the morning or something, nowadays it's sad. I hate to admit it, but you're on vacation. I'm sitting on the pool and I still have my phone with me.
Oh yeah.
How sad is that?
It is.
We're skiing down and it's like you get on the chair, you take your phone out. You ski down, you get on the chair, you take your phone out. I mean, it's what the hell, It is what it is.
Yeah.
As they say, sometimes I got it, and sometimes it's because of work, but it's like I got to do that in order to pay for this.
Oh, exactly.
It's how it works. So we understand. Okay. The next one, which I think is a big one.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever make changes to your controller configuration unless it is absolutely necessary. Don't. You know what? This pump should not be running right now. First of all, okay, it shouldn't be running. Is it going to make a difference if it runs for the next week at this time, or is it not? If it doesn't, don't change it. Because what happens is Murphy's Law. You hit that upload button, something happens, and you're not there.
Right.
So don't ever make configuration changes to your controller unless you really, really, really have to. That's a big one. And then the next one is never, ever update a controller's firmware when you're not there. Trust me. How many times have I gotten support tickets from people? It's like, my controller's not working. I just did a firmware and it didn't come back. And you can't, it baffles me. I'm sorry. It baffles me. It's like, why would you do it when you're not there?
Yeah.
You know, every controller company tries to make it as simple as possible, but you know what? It's the controller was developed by a human being, and anytime you have humans, something is going to happen. It's
Right.
Murphy's law. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So why poke the lion? Why do you want to spin the roulette?
Yeah.
You know, the house always wins.
Yeah.
And last time I checked, we're not the house. So, you know, don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So that pretty much covers the during vacation list.
Yeah.
Pretty short. Remember, you've done all the work already.
Right.
You've done the preparation way ahead in advance. You've done your preparation the day before or the few days before that. Now, you know, part of the peace of mind is to check your tank every day and just make sure, oh, you know what, everything is working correctly. I'm good.
Yeah.
And then you can enjoy, you know, you can enjoy your system.
The preparation is so you can have that added, you know,
Yes.
relief of knowing you did everything you could.
And
feel
checking
good
your
about it.
tank, checking the camera, checking the tank with your controller is the affirmation, the confirmation that you did everything correct and everything is fine.
Right.
You know, that's great. Okay, so now let's move on to after returning from vacation.
You always got to come back from a vacation.
I know it sucks.
Yeah. You always got to come back though. Back
Always
to
have-
reality.
All right, so the first thing I have is clean the glass from excess algae growth.
Yeah.
And that sometimes, depending on how long you've been, it's gonna take you some time, because it's not gonna be, it's gonna be some elbow grease in there.
Right.
You know. Second one, visually inspect your aquarium. Ensure the fish are okay, no signs of stress. You know, did a coral drop? You know, something fell off on top of something else. It happens. You know, there's nothing you can do. Is, you know, it happens. So just take your time and check your tank and do that. I mean, that's a bit. Do a water change if you need.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure that your salinity is okay though. You know, so take your time to check the salinity, and then, you know, make adjustments. You know, but do a water change if you need to.
Yeah.
And then most importantly, just take a deep breath, you know, knowing that everything went well. Hopefully everything went well. And you're like, you know, I was pretty good. And you can get, you know, open up a beer because, you know, your alcohol tolerance is probably pretty high already. So having a beer should be okay.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a margarita, depending on where you came from. And then just sit down and enjoy the tank. Everything went well.
I like to observe when I come back. A lot of, you know, you get accustomed to looking at your corals. A lot of times you can tell when they're not happy or something's just not right.
And you know, the thing also that I enjoy is that when you go away and then you come back, then you can see the growth. You can see the changes. Yeah. It's hard to see changes when you look at corals every single day. But when you go away for a few days and come back, you're like, ooh, this is actually pretty good. And most of the times I've noticed that my tank does better or does the best when I'm not tinkering with it.
I know. Huh?
You know,
yeah.
I think one of the things that I forgot, you know, and I think somebody brought it up on the chat, is like, you know, especially for, you know, the first stage, which is leaving vacation few week in advance or something, is top off your liquids. Sounds like I sound like an auto shop,
right?
But yeah, you know, if you're dosing trace elements, if you're dosing calcium, alkalinity, or something like that, you know, even if it's not done to the bottom, top them off.
Yeah.
You never know. You know, you could be in the halfway through the container, says, oh, that should be enough for 7 days. So that should be enough for 10 days. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the thing, you had a spike in alkalinity use, and they had to use more. And all of a sudden, now you don't have enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long. Just grab it, top it off, top them all off, and then you'll feel better.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than, it's like, crap, my alkalinity is low and I'm out of alkalinity, and now everything is gonna tank.
Right.
You know, so just top off your liquids. You know, you're watching CVtv Workshops. My name is Carlos. I'm here with my co-host David Dockin, owner of CoralView, and we're talking about going on vacation and our task list for checklist when we go on vacation. And it seemed like a long list, but it really wasn't.
No, not really. And I hope somebody maybe got some suggestions they didn't think of before. You know, ultimately we want to protect everybody's tanks. We're responsible for these animals, and we try and give them the best care possible. So, but we all want to go on vacation too.
Absolutely. And, and just a reminder as well, you know, the checklist, it's not a rule, it's not a law.
Yeah.
It's a set of suggestions that we make. At the end of the day, it is your system,
Yep.
and you know what works best for your system. But at the same time, we just like to say that this is a list that we've compiled, for, Dave and I have over 40, 50 years of experience together keeping tanks. So these are the things that we've seen that, honestly, these are the mistakes that we've made.
I know.
These are the mistakes that we've made, and we just don't want you to have the same mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's just a suggestion. It may, some things may work for you, some things will apply, some things will not apply. And you know what? Some people might think, might look at the list and says you're missing X, Y, and Z. Again, it's because it's a very general list. It's every tank is different. Every tank is different. So, if you like what you're watching, if you like what you see, we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. So please hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the bell, and you'll be notified when we have a new show. If you have any questions about Hydros controller, programming it, configuring it, getting you ready for vacation, low power mode, we talked about battery power. So let's go ahead and just head over to forum.coralviewhydros.com. There's a great community there of people that have been using Hydros for a while, and they're always willing to help.
Yeah.
If you have a question about a product that you didn't purchase at CoralView, and you feel like, what, I didn't purchase it at CoralView, I don't know if I could ask that question, that's okay. Just head on over to Facebook, our Facebook group, CoralView Cares. It's a community of a thriving community, growing community of folks that are willing to help, regardless of what you have. I have a question about a fish, have a question about a product. Doesn't matter. Ask. People will help. And if you have a question about a specific product that you purchased at CoralView, maybe you have a pump and you are cleaning it and something happened, or you notice that a sensor was cracked, or maybe the epoxy was compromised and water got into the sensor, and you want to submit a ticket for a warranty replacement, head on over to support.coralview.com, and one of our reps is going to be able to help you right away. Usually we answer within the next, within a few business hours.
Yep.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this show is about making it easier for everybody. And this is not just for newbies. Like we talked about this before in support, there's been many times when I get people that have been in the hobby for years and they still do things the day before, including myself sometimes. So please do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. So Dave, any other suggestions that we see on the chat?
I think we did a pretty good job of covering, everything that, from our experience. Just, like you said, Murphy's Law. If it can happen, it will happen. And it usually happens when you're on vacation.
Absolutely.
So that extra preparation is well worth your time.
Absolutely. That extra preparation is worth. I mean, it's going to be a few step process, but it'll pay off in the long run when you're sitting at on your chair with your margarita or beer or your old fashioned, whatever rocks your boat on that one. And you have that peace of mind that everything is okay, and you look at your phone and everything is fine. That you can't put a price on that. You cannot.
Oh.
You cannot, because you're not going to enjoy your vacation if you know something is wrong.
Right.
It's just the way it is. All right. Well, with that, we want to say thank you, everybody, for watching. I want to say thank you to Connor for always answering questions. Jeff, Michael. I want to say thank you to everybody, all the usual subjects, suspects, Dave, and everybody else. Thank you so much for watching. I want to say thank you to our producer, April, for always a fantastic job. Her commercials are always so good. I mean, God, we're taking it for granted, Dave. We didn't even talk about the commercial anymore.
Right.
It's just like, that's what she does.
No,
April, I apologize for that. It was an amazing commercial. Thank you to Jeremy, our graphic designer, for doing all the graphics. I know this was a very graphic intensive show. Thank you, Dave, as well. Core of you for always doing the workshops, being available. I know you're always busy, but take the time to come up.
Yep. We like doing it and try and share our knowledge, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Yes. So on behalf of myself, Carlos, and the CVtv crew, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.